Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff We Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to today's Feminists Around the World. And we're kind of switching it up a bit, not too much, but we are featuring an activist, but with a twist. So recently, in an upcoming episode, we're predicting the future. I love how podcasting works, where we're just kind of doing all the episodes and then it rearranges itself on the timeline and we never really know exactly when to publish or when we're going to publish or change the publishing. Because
it does kind of feel like time traveling sometimes.
It does, right? I think and also mainly because future us, if we ever get referenced back to these episodes, not realizing what we're talking about, we talk about the New Year's prediction episode often because it felt so badly that
terrible.
When we do things like that, it's kind of you never really know. But with that, an upcoming episode, if you're listening to when this is released, we have already recorded an episode that's coming in the future, very, very close future. But we get to sit down again with our friend Bridget. So excited to have her back on. We talked about organizing and boycotting because, things are happening, which led to me talking about something that I've been seeing in my feed. And it was an interesting poll between the three of us. Because as I was getting small bits of it, while apparently Bridget was getting a lot more, and you had no idea because you're not on the social medias that. Fair enough. But anyway, with all of that, yes, this kind of came in with this. So today is February 25th, 2025. Oh, look at that, that's a sick number. And one thing we love is organizing. And with that, people who are good at it. So we love people who are good at it. For myself, I admire that as a quality that seems so far away from me. And so it seems like a superpower. Anney, you're one of those because you're also one of those who gets frazzled and then gets really productive, as where I get frazzled and I quit. So again, when I see people being active and being on top of things and being organized and ahead, I'm always like, wow, what? But I'm talking about organization in an activist level. So if your feed looks like mine, which I'm saying, I get little bits of it, you may have come across a call to action for the economic blackout for this Friday, February 28th, 2025. So it is coming up very quickly. And if you haven't, here's a bit of information from Salon.com. A New Yorker transplanted to the Midwest, John Schwartz, originated the People's Union Economic Blackout set for Friday that aims to unite consumers, reminding them and the corporate retailers and services they patronize of the might of a single dollar that in aggregate can create powerful change. And so the article goes on explaining more, saying, the one-day blackout, which has gone viral since its announcement in early February, is to see folks across the country spend no money at corporate retailers such as Target, Amazon, and Walmart. The action includes skipping fast food restaurants, avoiding gas stations, and putting away the credit cards, except for at small businesses and independent community establishments. So really great idea. I came across this. And because, again, I feel like we have to be really, really hypersensitive and aware and do some research. I didn't know much about it. And I was like, is this a good thing? Is this what these things? And Bridget, as you will hear on our next episode, kind of explains a little more. And if you have the time, you need to go listen. It's a great episode coming up. Just to hype it up a bit more, and just about how effective this type of action or an organization can be. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about for this episode. In that same Salon article, they interview Nikki Porcher about this type of activism, and that is who we are featuring today. We want to talk about her and her work. So she does come into play, and we're going to read a little bit from her in that same interview in this conversation about this economic blackout. But before we do that, we do want to highlight who she is and what she's doing. So Porcher is the founder of Buy From a Black Woman, which is a nonprofit that uplifts and empowers and support Black women-owned businesses, small Black women-owned businesses. A bit from the website, buyfromablackwoman.org, quote, Black women have been leading the numbers when it comes to starting a business, but annual sales for Black women business owners are 5 times smaller than all women-owned businesses due to lack of support and awareness. That's where Buy From a Black Woman comes in. Since 2016, Buy From a Black Woman has empowered, educated, and inspired Black women business owners and the people who support them. Buy From a Black Woman ensures that Black women have the tools and resources that will allow them to be successful. Through educational programs, an online directory, and funding, Buy from a Black Woman continues to grow as a trusted resource that helps Black women in businesses. Going back to Bridget, we had a whole conversation about Black women businesses and getting funds and grants and how the government is against them. It has been from jump before this administration even. So organizations like this are really important to keep us aware and informed of businesses that are out there that we should be supporting. That's a side note. And yeah, her organization has been around since 2016 for a minute, bringing awareness in supporting small Black women-owned businesses. And so a bit of information about her specifically. From her LinkedIn account, she writes, "I am here to ensure that Black women are seen, supported, and heard. I open doors for Black women business owners and advocate for them at every level of the business ecosystem. I push for change at the policy level, champion supplier diversity at the corporate level, mentor Black women founders at the business level, and I also educate consumers on how to support Black women entrepreneurs conscientiously, sustainably, and long-term. And I've managed to get incredible results because of my approach. I've built the highest-ranking online directory of Black women-owned brands, secured partnerships with major organizations like H&M, the IRS, and PayPal, helped Black women drive over $2.7 million in revenue, and built an engaged community of 262,000 plus supporters. I believe that Black women deserve an equal chance, so I do everything I can to make sure they get the best tools and resources to start, build, and sustain thriving businesses." So she is doing some amazing work. And in an interview with thewiresuit.com, she talks about her journey in creating this nonprofit. And she says, "It started off as a blog where I highlighted Black-owned brands so people could buy from them. And I started the blog after attending an event with just women-owned brands and realizing that I was the only Black woman in the room, which opened my eyes to the lack of support that Black women entrepreneurs receive in general. And I believe that when things like this are revealed to you, it's because you're supposed to be a part of a solution. So I decided to do something about it. I started buying from Black women and blogging about my journey, and people loved it. They wanted to be involved. Businesses started reaching out and asking how they could get featured, and people kept asking how they could send me money to support the movement, which is how the blog evolved into a nonprofit, and we awarded our first business grant. That was back in 2016, and we've come a long way since then. So in that same interview, she talks about why she wanted to do this work. And she says, "I've been called to serve and have always worked in service to others in some way. I served my country when I was in the military. I'm a decorated war veteran who did 2 tours in Iraq. I also taught in the public school systems and worked in the nonprofit industry. So when I realized that I needed to do something about the inequalities that Black women business owners face, and I started up thinking of how I could be a part of that solution, it occurred to me that my background and experience made me perfect for the job. It was just clear to me that this is the path that I'm supposed to be on." And she's doing a great job. With her nonprofit, she's also a writer and a podcaster. Maybe a guest.
Yeah.
And so here's a bit of information from blackwomanspodcast.com. Black women are the economy, the culture, and the movement. So why are we still waiting for permission? The Nikki Porcher podcast is where real conversations meet real action. Hosted by Nikki Porcher, founder of Buy From a Black Woman, this podcast is all about pushing past fear, stepping into our power, and making moves that matter. Through bold storytelling, thought-provoking discussions, and the double Dutch rule, 1, 2, 3, jump in, Nikki challenges listeners to stop waiting and start building. Whether it's business, personal growth, or the state of Black women in the world, this podcast is your weekly push to move with intention and create impact. It's time to jump in. So, hey, podcast recommendation from us.
Yes.
And also possible guests. Yeah. Just, you know how we do around here. Of course, and as a trusted source for small Black women-owned business, she has some insight on this Friday's economic blackout. So this is how I discovered her in the first place. So we want to talk about her thoughts on this. Going back to that salon.com article, quote, Nikki Porcher, founder of Buy From a Black Woman, a business support organization, favors the idea of financial resistance on Friday and advocates for a multi-pronged long-term strategy. She says the strike will only be effective with mass participation, media coverage, and sustained behavior change going forward. If people return to their usual spending patterns the next day, the momentum can be lost. Additionally, without clear demands or follow-up actions, corporations may not feel compelled to change, she said. And then she continues, the strike raises awareness about economic disparities and corporate accountability, encouraging people to be more intentional with their dollars. It also sends a clear message that marginalized communities hold financial power and will not support businesses that harm them. So I think this is such a great conversation because it is this larger picture that we have been talking about what is this effect, how is this effective, and how do we know it's going to be effective? Because it seems like boycotting on a personal level doesn't necessarily do anything. And we know that when it comes to accessibility, that's a whole conversation that we have to have on top of that. But taking time and taking a business, like if a chunk of people, even if it's like 10% of the people stopped buying for one day, and those numbers will affect the corporations. So again, referring back to the episode that we recorded with Bridget, she does talk about how corporations do see this as a threat. And I think that's like a big conversation. And then having people like Porcher, who has done the work for us and is showing us and giving us an actual list, handing us a list of trusted businesses, small-owned businesses by Black women. Like, that's so great. Like, I've been asking, we know this, we've been asking, how do we ethically buy good presents? How do we all these things? Because it feels like all the corporations, even the quote unquote good ones, are not great. So, like, she has done the work for us and being like, buy from here. So if you do buy on Friday, we are asking you to be a part of this initiative, of this blackout. Do not buy from corporations if you can. We know things happen. We know like people have accessibility issues and things have to be done. We know it might be very last minute. So apologies, because like I said, it kind of popped in a few things here and there on my feed, but I kind of like didn't know if there was an actual thing. That was bad on my part. But that if you are going to buy, purchase, or do anything to do from small business, go to buyfromablackwoman.com, and they have great lists. They have ways to support. Porcher has done a lot of the work, obviously. And then we had already talked about previously content creators who are also getting us a list of people who we should support and buy from. And those are important things to look at.
Yes. And I would say also, I know I really floundered when at the beginning of the year you asked me my resolutions, my goals. I would say in general, one of mine has been like to buy less. And we talk about that in the episode coming up with Bridget's episode, especially if it's not something I really need or, you know, shop your own closet, that kind of thing. Although I just wear pajamas and t-shirts now, so it doesn't matter. But you know, that is something I've been really trying to do. So do this, but also keep it in mind going forward. Where you can make the changes, try to make those changes.
Right. Yeah. And I think we do. I think we will come back and have a bigger conversation about what these types of thoughtful purchasing, I guess, thoughtful buying does look like, as well as looking at groups like, you know, Buy Nothing groups, even though it's on Facebook. Where else is it on? Is it on the neighbor one?
Next door.
Yeah.
They do post on there. Oh my goodness. So much drama happening on my next door right now. But I mean, that's the complexity of it, which we do talk about in that episode with Bridget as well. It's like sometimes you have to make your compromises of, well, I'll give up this thing, but I can't really give up this thing, or it's difficult. But to have those conversations, to have those thoughts, and to really try what you can, if you can, because not everybody has the ability to do it like some of us do. So, yeah, just think about it. Try to do it where you can, because it's definitely hitting where it hurts, the old wallet. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, if you have any suggestions, listeners, for organizations we should look into, people we should look into, businesses like these that you love, let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Momsta Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite show.